What is it that keeps me going? I think I think it's just as cheesy as it may sound, I think it's just um, love.
Welcome to the Marinade, a free-flowing conversation about the creative process with creative people. Each episode, we welcome musicians, actors, comedians, authors, visual artists, filmmakers, anyone who creates art to talk about how and why we make stuff. This is episode 167, and our guest is Alisa Amador. Alisa is a bilingual singer and songwriter based in Boston. Her debut full-length record, Multitudes, is a journey through genre and language that delights at every turn. It's a personal, yet universal piece of art, born of determination and self-discovery. Alisa was the winner of NPR's Tiny Desk Concert Competition in 2022 at a time when she was just about ready to hang up her music dreams. She's an inspiration and an absolute light. I'm so excited to bring my conversation with Alisa Amador. Now you don't know how to stay. Alisa, thank you for doing this. I'm so excited to talk with you. We were just talking a second ago about this beautiful physical copy of your new record. It's Multitudes is absolutely outstanding. It's a gorgeous record, and I thought that I wanted to start off by just first of all saying thank you, but also talking about this because it's a nice touch that isn't something I'm used to, and that's not me complaining about other artists or publicists or managers or anybody. It's just still a nice touch that you wrote this really sweet, and it's even got artwork on it. There's this little like accompanying letter for this advance copy of your beautiful record Multitudes, and I just wanted to read a piece of it and then just kind of like get your thoughts on sort of your decision to include this and make this personal connection that I think speaks to your music too. I know that everyone in this crazy industry is so busy and often sick of listening to music by the end of the workday. But I honestly think that this album is meant for that person exactly. The person who feels exhausted, drained, burnt out. The person who needs to feel their feelings, but also scream and dance a little. So here you are. Multitudes is here for you. Thank you for listening and for being a person who cares about original music. And like, yes, right? Like I am burnt out and I am drained and I'm happy, but I'm also exhausted. And, you know, I do need something that like, I need to feel my feelings and scream and dance a little. And that's what this record does. It provides the motivation and the space to scream and dance a little. So I wanted to thank you for that and maybe just start off by talking about like that decision to include this sweet personal note in this beautiful copy of your record.
Thank you so much for reading that out loud. It's like when you write a letter and you send it, you don't necessarily remember what you wrote.
Yeah.
So it's really special to hear it kind of echoed back to me in that way and to see your reaction. It really gives me a lot of strength because so much of this job involves sending things kind of out into a void. And an album release can feel that way too. And working on social media can feel that way. And sending advance copies to all of these incredible people in the music industry, and without any expectation of a response, really, you're just trying to reach people, in a world that can feel really, really intense and at the same time really numbed out. So yeah, hearing that letter read back to me is really poignant, especially right now, because we're talking just days before this album comes out. And it's a really intense and very intense process, putting out a record. So I'm comforted hearing these words, and I also want to say that the way that I approach making music and living is so personal.
Mm,
And that has its pros and cons, but I want to think of it more as a strength than as a weakness,
hmm
to be myself and to not like numb myself to that. Um, but yeah, I think I'm hoping that this album can just reach the people who need it, and the people like you who are exhausted and frustrated and like sometimes maybe wondering why the heck we're doing this, and then actually find solace and strength and to keep going.
Well, I mean, that you said so much there that resonates. I mean, talking about how we put things out into the void. I just today released an episode with Oliver Wood,
Uh-huh.
and I'm really proud of it. And
Yay.
it's my second time getting to record with Oliver, third time getting to interview him overall. And to me, he's like a hero, right? He's a luminary in the roots music world. And when I get to talk to him, I'm just giddy, right? And then you release it.
Mm,
And there's just no telling if anybody's going to get their ears on it. There's no telling if anybody's going to
yes.
give a shit, if it's going to land with people. It landed with me though, and that's what I keep coming back to. And so
Mm,
is like always remembering that the conversation, if nothing else, it landed with me and it mattered for me and I learned something and I'm growing. But sometimes
yeah.
that's not enough. And I think your record dives into that quite a bit.
Mm,
You set the scene of being there playing and like wondering whether this is going to amount to anything. And are people going to take these songs home with them? Are they going to live with them? Are they going to care beyond this moment? Or are you
yeah.
just sort of playing to the exit sign, right? Like that feeling, all of us who make stuff feel that. And you have gone through that in a really intense way. And then at the moment where you're ready to pretty much say, you know what, maybe this isn't for me, you have this huge break. And
Mm,
I'm really interested in, this is a question we talk about a lot on the Marinade.
mm.
What keeps you going?
What is it that keeps me going? I think I think it's just, as cheesy as it may sound, I think it's just um, love.
Mm,
Love for the people, love for the audiences that I sometimes get to meet in
mhm,
person, you know, when
mhm,
the anonymity is taken away momentarily by like someone at the grocery store telling me how much this song meant to them, or that they've been to these concerts, or um like those are the moments that give me strength to keep going. Um, and otherwise, what keeps me going is this honestly a dream, because I haven't actually achieved it. But
mm,
my dream is to be able to make music and work this job, and uh and also honor myself as a human being. Like take care of myself all the time. Because I think that working in the arts and in service industries is often at odds with being a human being.
mm.
It's like you have to suspend all of your needs to be in the van for 10 hours, make it in time for load in, play the show, but also to like constantly showcase yourself on social media and uh, spend all of your money on music videos and be like, wait, am I like being paid by my job, or am I paying for my full-time job? You
Yeah.
know? Like I still don't have the answer, honestly. And that's a little scary at this point, honestly.
Mm,
But when I play shows and people are there with me, it's like one of the last forms of magic that there is. It's just like strangers being in a room together, being present and being open-hearted. And so I'm trying to hold on to that. I'm really trying to hold on to that. And I hope that this record can do that and make it more possible to keep going. And yeah, I don't have an
Well,
answer.
that's a beautiful answer. And I think I love I love that you led with love, right? And I think
Mhm.
that comes through in your music. It comes through in the interviews I've watched, the performances I've seen. And it's also interesting to me something that came through, but you didn't say the word there. And
Mhm.
that is I interpret a lot of what you just said as being really grateful. There's a theme of gratitude that seems to come across in your
Yeah.
performances. I mean, you've accomplished so much,
Thank
and
you.
in such a short amount of time too. And we're talking about 2022 when you win the Tiny Desk concert, right? And then you have the concert itself. You win the competition. You have the concert itself. You are, by the time this comes out, we will have known that you're going to appear on the Kelly Clarkson show. Like
Yeah.
all of these huge moments, you're receiving that external validation of the internal work that you've done,
Mm.
and something that comes through to me in everything you do. I mean, you spent like a well a well-timed amount of time, but a significant amount of time loving on your band when in that Tiny Desk concert, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel like I got to
Love
know
that.
each of those individuals, as
Mhm.
you're, and everybody announces the band, of course, but I felt like there's this current of gratitude runs through the conversations that I've heard you have, the performances I've seen, and the record itself. And I
Mhm.
wonder how conscious you are of that gratitude. Is that just a natural part of you? Like, can you speak to that?
Um, that's so interesting. Thank you for noticing that. Yeah,
There goes again. Thank you.
I don't know. I don't know how aware of it I am. I guess I think I've I've generally always been a person even since I was very small. I'm an identical twin. So I've
Mm,
always been thinking about myself in relation to others. First in relation to my twin brother Zia, who's a trans man. Because the people who are like identical twin, but he's a brother, what? So I
mm-hmm.
have to say that to
Yeah.
anyone who's a nerd about twins. But anyway, he taught me from a young age to just like be noticing how other people are doing and feeling um and I think so much of my work as a performer involves just acknowledging everyone else in the room
Mm-hmm.
and realizing that even though I'm not getting to like have a conversation with every single person in the venue, something about my music is is creating a space where people can feel seen and heard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always the hope, is to acknowledge each other's humanity and to make people feel less alone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess I have a pretty active curiosity about other people and noticing like their superpowers and their
Mm-hmm.
gifts and appreciating them. Um, and yeah, I remember right before going on quote unquote stage behind the desk,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I want to introduce everyone and I want to think about some of the things that I love about them that stand out to me. So it was like, Noah, my bass player, incredible gardener.
Yeah.
Like
That's a
you
really
should
sweet
see his
moment.
garden. And like Jacob just got married and he's here with us, like playing this show.
Yeah.
And Jamie amazes me in all these different ways. It's
Yeah.
just like, I don't know, I always want to I really enjoy thinking about other people and I yeah, my maybe this isn't the like most savvy business philosophy, but I'm never thinking about what I can get out of a transaction, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe I'm not, maybe this is a bad business model, but I just want to learn about people. Like and see what makes them special I don't know. That's like even in interviews, like I would rather be hearing about like what is on your table behind you and what is that cool like printed poster?
Oh, that's a Sunvolt. That's a uh, Duquette Johnson and Sunvolt in 2017. I got to see them at the St. Augustine Amphitheater. Is what that is, and that I just put that up a couple days ago. I moved recently, so
Ah,
that's only up like since Friday or something.
well, nice.
Yeah.
Welcome to your new place.
Thank you. It's starting to feel sort of like home after a long time in another place and another relationship and another life.
Oof.
It's a life. It's been a huge transition, but art like your record and making the podcast myself and connecting with
Mm,
people like you is like really, it has been a huge balm for me and a huge.
mm,
It's been a salve like to be able to get a because I was thinking about it. One of the things that I love is I never meant for this show. I've talked about this a lot, but it's worth revisiting. I never meant for this show to be a show that features white guys with guitars. And but it
like
became
yeah, like no offense to white guys with
I
guitars.
love I am one, as you see
There's the
behind
guitar.
me. um But what happened was I just listened to a lot of white guys with guitars and I knew a lot of their publicists. And then people started to, and this is one of the things I was shouting out your publicists earlier, because
Mm,
one of the things that I love about them is that like they will, they won't just pigeonhole me as the show about white guys with guitars, right? Like they will
yeah.
find somebody that they know I'll have a great conversation with, that I'll appreciate their art and help me there. And I'm, please, folks listening, if you have a bunch of white guys with guitars that are amazing, keep them coming my way. I just mean, like this record, I was thinking about it as I was listening. I'm
Yeah.
not sure it would have come across my radar in an
Mm,
algorithmic world.
right.
You know, I'm
Yeah.
not sure that would have come across
Like
my
a
radar.
indie, like I don't even know what genre to call this music, but like
Right.
I don't know, like devastating bilingual pop music that's not just pop. He's also in
Right.
others like genres.
And that's my shit. But the algorithm doesn't seem to think it is.
Yeah, the algorithm does not understand us.
And so, I'm just really grateful for those, the connections that I'm able to make for this show with this show, and like that a record like Multitudes would come into my life, and that I would spend so much time with it. And now that I have this physical copy, I'll spend even more time with it because it won't be something that was just I was streaming and then I move on to the next thing. Now that this is on my shelf, and I'll be looking for what am I in the what kind of vibe am I?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll dial up Elisa and then I'll remember the conversation. It'll be that kind of
Yay.
connection,
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being a person who's willing to listen. Can we talk
Mm.
about that for a second? Because
Yeah.
I feel like all independent musicians are just like hoping and praying that people just press play. That
Hmm.
is it. That is everything we're doing. Like we're sitting here on this podcast with the hope that people will press play
Hmm.
on this record, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just been months and months of work just trying to get people to know that it exists and then press play. And then in an ideal world, not only do they press play, but they connect with it, they share it with people who they think would connect with it. They show up to concerts and not just one, but they come again and again. Like this is what makes a career in music possible, is just people pressing play. So thank you for being a person who presses play, who's interested in learning more. I think it just, yeah, it really means a lot.
Well, speaking of learning more, I mean, this was an education for me. I didn't know what milonga was until
Mm.
I listened to this record, and that particular track is a standout, and it closes the record. And like, there's a few moments on here, um, a few other connections. Like, I forget which song exactly it was, but I was listening to it. The first time I listened to your record was in the morning when I was getting ready. I'm an English teacher, and I
Right.
was like getting ready to go teach that day. And I was like, I always give the record one listen. And
Mm.
then if it grabs me, I listen to it again and again and again, which is what happened with yours. If it doesn't grab
Yay!
me, I put it down and then I try to revisit it later, right? But yours grabbed me from the beginning. And it's fun because it made this connection where like I don't listen to a lot of Spanish language music, not because I don't love it. It's just because again, it's not I don't my Spanish is terrible and I the algorithm doesn't give it to me, like I said,
Right.
and I'm not like when I'm seeking it out, I'll find it, but if I'm not seeking it out, it doesn't come my way, which I guess is a
Yeah.
lesson for me too. But there's a moment where you talk like you're singing in Spanish and you talk about the heart, and like I don't remember exactly what the lyric was or exactly which song it was, but it made me dial up Steve Earle's El Corazon, the
Wow.
record from like the 90s. And it was a really fun connection. And then later in the day, I went back to your record and spent some more time with it. So it was kind of like giving me these, I hadn't listened to that record in probably 10 years. And it kind of gave me this really fun jump around to something that wasn't necessarily connected to your record, but that I loved and that gave me a lot of joy. And then I came back to your album. So it's just like an intentional education. I learned what Milonga was, and then
Yay.
also like a re-education in an album that I really appreciated. There are just layers to this record. And so I'm curious about your writing process as I think about how complex this record is.
Mm.
You just described it in so many terms, and it's impossible to pigeonhole, right? Because there's so much happening with it, and it could fit in so many different places, but with its
Yeah,
edges sticking out of boxes. And so,
exactly.
I'm curious about what your writing process looks like, and if it's changed over the years.
Okay, so first of all, definitely it has. But can we bookmark this for a second because I'm
Yeah.
curious to hear from you what your experience like more about your experience of listening to the songs in Spanish as a non-Spanish speaker.
Mm. Yeah. So I think. Sorry, were you going to follow that up with
Well,
something?
yeah, just following it up with like, this album is in English and in Spanish.
Yeah.
And d is it like does it feel different when there's a song in Spanish versus a song in English, or is there like a consistent feeling while I don't know. I'm just curious as a non-Spanish speaker, like how did you connect with the music?
I think it's consistent. I think the way I feel about the songs is consistent. And I think the reason why is because the emotion doesn't, it comes through regardless of what language you're speaking. And
Yes. Yes, that's the
here's
goal.
but here's what I'll also say is that
Okay.
I think that as a non-Spanish speaker, I, it's more accessible for me because there's English as well. And
Hmm.
so I think that allows me to, if I do for some reason lose the thread,
Yeah,
if like there's enough Spanish that for whatever reason I lose the thread, the emotion's still there, but I'm a lyrics person ultimately. So I
same.
want both, but I want to know what you're saying. And so if there's a moment where I'm just like, all right, this is way above where my Spanish goes,
Yeah.
which is pretty quick. Then I love how the English for me as a native English speaker who only really speaks English, I'm able to be grounded in something that I'm much more comfortable and familiar with. So
Yeah.
that when I'm then having to push myself a little bit more, it's I've already built up a little bit of capital. I've built up a
Hmm.
little bit of like linguistic capital or
Right.
emotional
Yeah,
capital.
you like feel safe. You feel
Yeah.
safe enough to be
Yeah.
vulnerable in that way. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I also love that because there's so much intersection in this record with the things that are comfort food for me. There's a
Mhm.
lot of like grounding in roots in American roots music and things that I'm like
Mhm.
comfortable with while also going all different directions. I think that's another thing that makes me feel safe is it's like
Mhm.
I feel like if you were coming from a bunch of different you could be coming from a bunch of different perspectives with this record and still feel safe. And that's pretty
Mm.
special.
Thanks. I feel like I could just die happy today after hearing that.
That's awesome. All right,
Uh,
so if we could revisit then
okay.
like
Yeah.
to be able to write something like this
Yeah.
and then
Mhm.
to have it come to fruition, what does that process look like? How do we get to this place?
Yeah. I mean, writing songs, the process of writing songs is almost like a dream state. So I don't have a super clear memory of like when I was writing each song. It's more like I enter this like dream state and I write, then I often will step away, come back to it another time. It's generally like I will be writing probably in the morning or at night, sometime where I'm not fully conscious. So that I can't judge myself so hard.
Yeah.
So that I can really be in touch with whatever I'm feeling. I honestly, usually when I sit down and end up writing, I don't even know what I'm going to write about
Uh,
until it's happening. And it's complete stream of consciousness process that would probably be kind of embarrassing slash boring to witness because it's like singing, just singing words over and over again until something gives me goosebumps and feels like it's really saying the thing that I'm feeling. And then I move on to the next part. And once a structure forms of like first verse and chorus, then the structure actually becomes this fantastic limiting factor where like, oh, the next verse has to have this many, what is it called? Is it syllables? Yeah, it has to have this many syllables.
mm,
This is how much space there is for this in the second verse. And the second verse has to be some sort of development or processing of what I'm trying to say, right?
mhm,
So I often feel proudest of the second or third verses
huh,
because that's where I learn something. That's where I'm actually processing something actively
yeah.
and then realizing, oh, this is how I feel about this. And maybe oftentimes the second or third verse involves some sort of compassion of like realizing something that I need to be compassionate about. Like I'm thinking of Still Life, for example.
Mhm,
On the third verse is when I say I've never listened in to what I had to say. You can
mhm,
get so used to pushing every thought away that they don't know how to stay.
mhm,
And that was in real time, like me realizing that I had learned, I had mastered the art of people pleasing to the point that I didn't even know what I needed or what I thought for myself.
mhm.
And it was a very painful realization. But if I hadn't written that song and gotten to that third verse because of the structure of the first verse, I I don't know how I would have realized that I needed to start listening to myself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the magic of making anything.
Mhm.
The one of the greatest gifts of making anything, whatever you're, if it's a song, if it's a short story, if it's a painting, is the lessons that it gives us. And that might
Yeah.
sound or feel kind of selfish as I say it, but it's just true that like, we were talking earlier about the struggle and wanting people just to press play and
Yes.
that and having to return when you don't know if they're going to press play, having to return to the lesson of maybe they don't, but I
Yeah.
made the thing and it made me better and I
Mm.
grew and I learned, right?
Oh.
That is a
Oh.
that is a it's is a
Yeah,
tough
you're
thing to hold
right.
on to, right? But it's true.
You're, it's really hard, but you're right. Yeah,
And that doesn't pay the bills, unfortunately, but
unfortunately.
but it does have its own value, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. It's like why do we do this? For me, the answer is like I'd be lying to myself if I didn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't make it easy or necessarily feel like it's the right thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a compulsion, right? You have to make it. Like
Mm-hmm.
we have to make things. And I like for me, if I was answering my own question earlier, the like what
Mm-hmm.
keeps me going,
Yeah.
it's I have to make stuff. I'm not
Yeah.
happy. I'm not happy if I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a compulsion almost. And like right now I have a lot of time on my hands, so I'm making a lot. I'm just
Mm.
getting up and treating my creative work like a job, which
Yeah.
is a luxury that teachers have in the summer and then really just in the summer because the other times you're trying to recover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Summer, you have enough space to actually do it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get too far away from something you said
Mm.
earlier that I found really interesting, which was that you were talking about when we were talking about gratitude, you were talking about the fact that it's important for you to make people feel seen and heard.
Mm.
And I'm wondering about you though. Like, have you felt seen and heard in your life, and do you feel seen and heard now?
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. I feel very seen and heard by my friends.
Huh.
and my family, and like the people I love fiercely, and I feel fiercely loved by them, and that gives me so much strength. Um, I I I'm curious what this year will bring in terms of connecting with my audience and feeling seen and heard by them in a new way. It's so funny to say that, like, because like when I'm on stage, like I'm literally being seen and heard, you know?
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I'm really curious to see what this album brings for my career, but for meeting people and for just getting even like a tiny little glimpse of how it's affecting people. Um, I really want this album to be like a house that people want to go and live in.
Mm-hmm.
Like a house where they feel safe, feeling any emotion, having
Mm-hmm.
any mood, be it a difficult mood or a cheery mood or whatever, angry mood, and to be a place where they feel safe to like dance like no one's watching, but also like lean on, receive support from other people, or ask for support, or say something that's been hard to say that they really needed to say. Like, I want this to be a safe house. I
Yeah.
want Multitudes to be a safe house. I know that the process of writing each song is like a moment like that for me, of where I feel a little safer and able to coexist with things that are really hard to coexist with. So I know that this is definitely an essential part of my healing process, or lifetime of learning how to take care of myself. Um, but yeah, I really I really hope the album can be that for everyone who listens, and I really hope that I can be kinder to myself.
I was
And
just gonna say, I asked you a question about you and you made it about other people, um, to some
what?
extent.
Yeah, I think yeah, I want to be kinder and gentler with myself when
Mm,
this album, in life, and as this album goes out into the world. Um, like, yeah, on the one hand, like, everybody press play, come to my shows, but
yeah, yeah,
also I need to just be gentle with myself and be good to myself, and
yeah.
trust I'm doing the best I can, and the music will reach people. Um, but I think you are making me realize something that I definitely do really focus outwards and not necessarily um, on how to be good to myself. It's like
Mm.
I'm just so much more thinking about other people and how to make things be good for others. But yeah, still working on the seeing myself and hearing myself.
Well, I can relate, and I think, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to ask you because I can relate,
Mhm.
and I think it's a constant struggle, like. And I was just curious, how because you tend to be so aware of people around you and the people you love. Like that's what I'm gathering from you, and
Mhm.
grateful for the people that you can't make a record this gorgeous on your own. I mean, you write the songs and there are your ideas and everything, but there's so many people involved,
Yeah.
and um, it's it's incredible that a piece of work like this comes about. But I was just also curious, like how much you are feeling seen and heard, and I hope that balance ends up getting struck. I know people are gonna love this, and I'm so grateful that you're getting a platform for people to hear it. I'm excited that you're gonna get to be on Kelly Clarkson's show, and that
Thanks.
this deserves to be heard by a broad audience. And so, I'm really excited for folks to hear because, like I said, it's been such good medicine for me, and I know it'll be good medicine for other people.
Thank you. Yeah. I know we only have a couple minutes, but I do want to say, like, feeling seen and heard in this industry can be really difficult. And I just
Mhm.
wanted to acknowledge that
Mhm.
the expectations are just so high on anyone working as an artist, anyone working as a teacher, anyone working in any service industry. Like, expectations are just so high for you just produce. And it can be hard to stop for a second and say, actually, this is really hard. And I need support, or this is not working for me. And so I'm really working on being brave and saying that, and then seeing seeing what happens. And let me tell you, it makes people uncomfortable sometimes. There have been some awkward meetings, some awkward work meetings.
Keep those people awkward, Alisa.
Yeah.
You make what you want to make.
Thank you. You are giving me the strength to go on.
The work speaks for itself.
You want to know what keeps me going? The marinade is what keeps me going.
That's right. You heard it here first, everybody. The marinade keeps Alisa going. It'll keep you going. So will her record. And thank you so much for doing this. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to connect with you now that I've it's so fun to get to devour someone's music and be moved by it so deeply, and then to connect with you like this, and I feel incredibly grateful for your time and very connected to you. So thank you so much for being so open.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for what you do for artists, and thank you for being a teacher. You have a superpowered double combo. That is quite the amazing double threat right there.
I can't imagine going without either one. So thanks for acknowledging it, but also I'm grateful for what I'm able to do too. See, look at me, like putting it back on other people in gratitude. Look at us go. Yeah. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you again.
Thank you. Take care. I hope we meet again soon.
I hope so too. I hope you come through Orlando one of these days.
Will do.
All right. Cool. Bye. Bye.
I've never been this still.
Alisa Amador, y'all. Thank you so much, Alisa. Thank all of you for listening. Get a physical copy of her gorgeous record, Multitudes, y'all, at alisaamador.com. The song you're hearing in this episode is Still Life from Multitudes, y'all. I loved having this conversation and connecting with Alisa. Listening to her records is its own form of communion with the artist, and I highly recommend that you take the time to do so. MarinadePodcast.com for all things The Marinade. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, Spoutable, Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon, all the things, y'all. Everything but Facebook. Subscribe and give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app. Tell a friend about the show. These are all free ways to support The Marinade. Go do that right now while you're listening, please. It makes a big difference for us and costs so little of your time and effort. If you really like what we're doing and can swing it, please consider joining our Patreon community. For just $2 a month, y'all, you can gain access to Patreon-exclusive content like our show, Jason's Journey, where I talk about the moments that shape my creative life and provide a window into the process of making The Marinade. One of the best days of the month for me is recording What We're Getting Down On with my dear friend, the brilliant and hilarious Peter Haraldson, and that's about the art that has us fired up at the moment. Y'all, you can try a free trial of Patreon to see if you like it. No pressure. Try it for 7 days. Set a reminder on your phone in case you want to cancel, and keep going if you dig it. If you want to support the show financially, but you don't want to commit to a monthly subscription, I totally get that as well. You can Venmo or PayPal us. It's just at The Marinade, and all the money goes right back into the making of the show. I'm at Bonnaroo right now. I'm recording this outro and the intro and doing the editing for this episode at Bonnaroo in Manchester, Tennessee. I got in a little late last night. I've been on my Grounded Summer Tour where I'm touring through my roots. I went and spent a good week and a half in Kentucky, where I'm originally from, and covered the Laurel Cove Festival. Check out those recaps on your podcast feed and at marinadepodcast.com. And now I'm at Bonnaroo. And the reason I can swing this, I make that teacher money, y'all. It's not like I can just up and go to Bonnaroo when I feel like it. The reason I can swing this is because of the generosity of our Patreon patrons. So thank y'all, everybody who can and does contribute. But above all, thank you so much for listening and spreading the word about The Marinade. Until next time, go out and create something. Cheers, y'all.